some events just, they become these huge cultural things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you sent over this WrestleMania40.pdf, and digging in, you just realize WrestleMania is definitely one of them. I mean,
It's a
40
short-
years.
It's incredible longevity.
Well, it's more than a generation of sports entertainment. So our mission here with this deep dive is to really get why, to pull out the key moments, the innovations, the sheer spectacle that turned what was a wrestling event into this global phenomenon.
Yeah.
We're talking its mainstream breakthrough, those moments you just can't forget, etched in pop culture, and the impact it's had, the legacy. Ready to jump in?
Definitely. And what's fascinating right from the start is that WrestleMania wasn't just trying to be like a bigger wrestling show. The ambition from day one was really to go beyond that, appeal much wider.
Okay, let's dig into that origin then. The source material, it makes it really clear that the first one, 1985, Madison Square Garden, it was just different. Vince McMahon had this vision, right? Beyond just the matches. What made it stand out immediately?
Well, a huge part was deliberately bringing in mainstream celebrities. Think about it. Hulk Hogan, already a massive star in wrestling, teaming up with Mr. T, who was just, everywhere in pop culture then.
Right, from the A-Team, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that immediately told people who maybe wouldn't normally watch wrestling, hey, this is something else. This is bigger. And the production values, even back then, were noticeably higher than standard wrestling shows. It was about creating an event, a spectacle.
A spectacle from the get-go. Okay, and then WrestleMania 2, that was another big leap, wasn't it? First wrestling event on pay-per-view. For anyone who doesn't remember that era, what did that actually mean for its reach?
Oh, it was fundamental. It completely changed how people could watch it. Instead of just being there live or maybe catching highlights later,
Yeah.
pay-per-view meant you could pay a fee, watch the whole show live in your own house. That just massively expanded the potential audience, and it created a whole new revenue stream, which obviously fueled more growth down the line.
The source also mentions this goes Hollywood phase. More celebrities, musical acts. It seemed like they really doubled down on that wider entertainment appeal. What was the thinking there? Was it just about getting eyeballs?
Well, yes and no. I mean, these celebrity integrations, they weren't just random. They often felt quite strategic, aligning with popular trends, popular people, all designed to kind of legitimize WrestleMania more in the public eye. It was like saying, look, this isn't just wrestling. This is entertainment. It's on par with concerts, with movies. And that helped break down some of that, stigma that wrestling sometimes had.
Right. Okay, and then things shift gears. Late 90s, early 2000s, the Attitude Era. The PDF talks about edgier content, these huge personalities, almost anti-heroes. How did that change things for WrestleMania's status and its ability to draw those massive crowds?
The Attitude Era was just explosive growth, and WrestleMania became the absolute peak showcase for its stars, its storylines. That edgier stuff, I mean, sure, it was controversial for some, but it really resonated strongly with a different demographic, a younger audience especially. The rebellious characters, they offered a different kind of hero, and that led to record-breaking numbers, attendance, revenue. It just cemented WrestleMania as the show you had to see. It was a calculated risk, really, but it paid off huge by broadening the appeal again, just in a different way.
It's amazing how it kept adapting. The document even mentions, like, WrestleMania XL in an outdoor stadium.
Yeah, the Citrus Bowl.
And then much later, virtual reality experiences at WrestleMania 37. It feels like this constant push to reinvent. What does that suggest about its long-term strategy?
That willingness, that need maybe to embrace new tech, adapt to how audiences change, it's absolutely key to staying relevant for so long. Moving outdoors, that allowed for just a grander scale, visually stunning.
Yeah, totally a different feel.
And then VR, that's tapping into a more immersive fan experience. It just shows a commitment to not getting stale, to staying current in this, rapidly changing entertainment world.
Okay, so we see the growth, the evolution, but what about those specific moments? The ones that really stick, the legendary ones. The PDF highlights quite a few. Let's start with maybe the most famous image. Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. WrestleMania 3rd, 1987. When you think iconic wrestling moments, that's going to be top tier. What made that one so huge?
Oh, it was just lightning in a bottle. You have to consider the story they told. Andre, this undefeated, unstoppable giant.
Presented as unbeatable.
Exactly. And Hogan, the all-American hero, facing this, impossible challenge. The visual itself, Hogan lifting and slamming Andre, combined with the sheer size of that crowd, the record-breaking crowd in the Pontiac Silverdome.
93,000 people.
Unbelievable. It created this image, this unforgettable picture of the underdog doing the impossible. It wasn't just a wrestling move. It became the symbol of heroism that resonated way beyond wrestling fans. It cemented Hogan as a true pop culture icon.
Absolutely cemented him. Okay, fast forward, 2001, The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. WrestleMania XL. The source calls it a clash of titans for supremacy. Anyone watching them knew the intensity was just wow. What made that match stand out?
Well, that was really the culmination, the absolute peak of the Attitude Era's biggest rivalry. You had these two incredibly charismatic guys
Both at the top of their game.
at the absolute height of their popularity. And the match, it was just a brutal, no-holds-barred fight. It perfectly captured that aggressive energy of the era, the back and forth, the feeling that either one could win at any second. It created this electric atmosphere. People still talk about that match today. It was really a clash of two eras, two types of wrestling stars.
Moving to something maybe a bit more technical, but equally legendary, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania XXV in 2009. The source calls it a wrestling clinic, maybe one of the greatest matches ever. Lots of suspenseful near falls. For someone maybe not deep into wrestling terms, what makes a match a clinic?
Right. So a clinic in wrestling usually means a match that just showcases exceptional skill, amazing storytelling inside the ring, and great psychology.
Okay.
This match, Michaels and Undertaker, it was a masterclass in building drama. The pacing was perfect. Every single move felt like it mattered. And those near falls, moments where you swear it's over, but then a shoulder kicks up.
Gets you every time.
They were just expertly done to keep everyone on the absolute edge of their seat. It wasn't just about flips and kicks. It was about two veterans telling this incredibly compelling story just through their actions in the ring.
And then the shocker. The moment that just silenced crowds. The streak ending.
Yeah.
WrestleMania XXX 2014. Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker.
Yeah.
The PDF really stresses the disbelief. I remember seeing the reactions online, just jaws dropped.
Yeah.
Why was that such a monumental upset?
Because The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, it had become more than just a statistic. It was legendary, almost mythical.
21-0.
Right? 21-0. For over 2 decades, he just won every year. It was a defining part of his character, a defining part of WrestleMania itself. So when Brock Lesnar broke it, and so definitively 3 F5s, clean pin.
No interference, nothing.
Nothing. It was genuinely shocking. It defied all expectations. It signaled this huge shift in WWE. It was a moment of genuine unpredictability in a business often, planned out.
And what's interesting, that same WrestleMania, number XXX, also gave us Daniel Bryan's yes movement culminating. The source highlights him overcoming all this adversity, winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in that triple threat main event. Yeah. The crowd reaction was just insane.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating to put those two moments together, right?
See, the contrast.
You had the shock, the disbelief of the streak ending, and then maybe an hour or two later, you have this incredible, pure underdog story climaxing with Bryan winning. His whole journey, it resonated so deeply with the fans. Those yes chants weren't manufactured. They were this organic explosion of support and joy. It was this huge cathartic moment of triumph right after a moment of utter surprise.
What an emotional swing that night.
Yeah.
Okay, and one more iconic moment here. Becky Lynch, WrestleMania 35, 2019. The source notes she became the first woman ever to win in the main event, symbolizing a new era for women's wrestling. Why was that such a critical milestone?
Well, for a very long time, women's wrestling, despite having incredibly talented performers,
Absolutely.
it just wasn't always given the same spotlight, the same platform as the men's divisions. So having Becky Lynch headline WrestleMania and win the main event, it was just this incredibly powerful statement. It showed how far women's wrestling had come, how much it was being recognized within WWE, and really the whole industry. It smashed a huge glass ceiling and proved the drawing power, the compelling stories the women's division could deliver.
Yeah, a massive moment. And of course, these moments are made by the performers, the legends. The PDF has a whole section on them. Let's start with Hogan again. The source calls his role in the 80s pivotal.
Yeah.
How exactly did he establish WrestleMania early on?
Hogan was just the perfect storm, really. Charisma, timing, marketability, his whole persona, larger than life, the Hulkamania message, saying your prayers, eating your vitamins.
The catchphrases?
Yeah, the catchphrases, they weren't just marketing fluff. They genuinely connected with this huge audience, kids especially. He was the undisputed face of the company when WrestleMania was just starting. His star power was absolutely essential in bringing that mainstream attention, bringing credibility to the event. He basically made it cool to be a wrestling fan back then.
Then there's The Undertaker. 3 decades. The Phenom. The Streak. The PDF emphasizes this unparalleled legacy. What kept his WrestleMania appearances so captivating for so long?
What's really remarkable about Undertaker at WrestleMania is just the consistency. The character, the mystique around him, it rarely wavered. The streak itself became this massive annual draw. Fans would tune in just wondering, is this the year? Who could possibly beat him?
Right, became its own storyline.
Exactly. He kept this aura of invincibility, of importance.
Yeah.
His matches, even as he got older and maybe couldn't do everything he used to, they always felt like huge special events within the bigger event. His dedication to that persona for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
It's incredible. A huge part of WrestleMania's history is tied to him.
And you can't talk late 90s without Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Attitude Era personified. That rebellious character, the beer truck, the Austin 3.16 promo, just legendary stuff. How did he specifically impact WrestleMania during that boom period?
Austin just embodied that anti-establishment vibe that defined the era. His whole rebellious thing, those iconic moments, often really funny too.
Yeah, the beer bath.
The beer bath, exactly. It just connected so deeply with a fan base that was looking for something different, something edgier. His WrestleMania matches were always high energy, unpredictable. He had this raw, intense connection with the crowd that made his main events absolute must-see TV. He was a totally different kind of hero for a different time, and WrestleMania was the perfect biggest stage for his brand of chaos.
And then you've got The Rock. Electrifying charisma and athleticism, the PDF says. Talks about his huge role in elevating WrestleMania with those clashes, often against Austin. What did he bring that made the event even bigger?
The Rock just had this unparalleled ability to connect with an audience. His charisma was, well, you said it, electrifying.
Yeah, truly.
In the ring, on the microphone. Just incredible. His matches were always exciting, always felt big. And his verbal battles, his promos, sparring with opponents, interacting with the crowd, they were often just as entertaining as the wrestling itself.
Finally, The Rock has come back.
Exactly. He brought this mainstream appeal that really went beyond wrestling. His Hollywood career, starting around then, just added another layer of intrigue to his WrestleMania appearances. He was a genuine crossover star who definitely elevated the whole event's profile.
And finally, in this legend section, Shawn Michaels. The Heartbreak Kid, hailed as one of the greatest ever in the ring. The source stresses his skill, his unforgettable matches. What made his WrestleMania performances stand out so consistently?
Michaels was just technically brilliant, a phenomenal in-ring performer and storyteller. He had this incredible knack for making you believe in the drama of the match no matter what the storyline was going in. His athleticism, his selling, how he reacted to his opponent's moves to make them look good.
Made everything look devastating.
Right. And his overall performance level was just consistently top tier. Even in matches he lost, he often stole the show because of his skill and the emotional investment he created. They called him Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. He set an incredibly high bar for performing on that stage.
The PDF then looks at specific memorable matches and rivalries. We've touched on Rock versus Austin, Michaels versus Taker, but it also highlights their rivalries playing out across multiple WrestleManias, that long-term intensity. Why is having those recurring clashes on the biggest stage so important?
Well, these multi-year, multi-WrestleMania rivalries, they build a much deeper story. Fans get even more invested over time. Each match carries the weight of everything that happened before the history, the animosity. It makes the stakes feel exponentially higher each time they meet. It's like following, a great book series or TV show. And WrestleMania becomes the stage for the biggest, most crucial chapters in those long-running sagas.
Makes sense. The Triple H versus The Undertaker trilogy, WrestleManias 27, 28, 29, gets called the end of an era in the source. It mentions the rising drama, the intensity, especially with those Hell in a Cell matches. What made that specific trilogy so compelling?
That trilogy was really framed around this idea that these were iconic figures, maybe nearing the end of their legendary runs.
Yeah, that feeling was palpable.
Right. So that added this real sense of drama, maybe even finality to each encounter. And having Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee in the final match inside Hell in a Cell just amped